From news to trending topics, we got you covered.
If it's buzzing, we're breaking it down.
Good afternoon, my name is Gab Reyes. From your algorithm to ours, we're all scrolling through the same chaos, so let's make sense of it together.
I'm Sachiko, Gamboa, and honestly, this will spark a debate, but for the next half hour, it's time for our
Unpopular Opinion.
Unpopular opinion. Say it again. Say it again. Unpopular opinion. We are open for discussion.
Wow, Sachiko, today has been a pretty crazy day of wild events. Wouldn't you say so?
I'm Prof.
I-
I'm speechless.
Yeah, that face right there, I think, is the perfect encapsulation of what has been happening for everything.
There's so many things happening. We have a new Senate president now. They said that there might actually even be a warrant of arrest now for Bato. He came after like 6 months,
6 months
being absent.
Absolutely
And we
insane.
actually just heard right now that Sara Duterte
Has been impeached in the House.
in the House.
In the House.
That's a lot of things going on for us. And as a Gen Z, personally for me, like, it's so easy to just close my phone. I don't want to listen to anything. But then I feel like this is my country, so I really want to engage still.
Right.
It's so important for us Gen Zs to be tapped into the news because this is where we're going to be living. This is for our children as well.
Absolutely, yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I feel the same way as a Gen Z, and as part of the younger generation. Nakakapagod lang talaga manood ng balita, and everything about politics just really gets me so exasperated, honestly.
Yes.
So it begs the question, right? Should the younger generation still be updated, or do they need to be updated? And yes, napapagod tayo, but for me, of course, my opinion is, no matter how many times we get tired of politics and everything, it's still very important. It's still so vital for all of us to be updated and engaged.
Speaking about that, we actually have our co-host Janina Vela live from the lower house. Janina,
How's it going over there?
Hi. Yeah, hi, Sachi and Gab. We're here right now. The plenary vote on the articles of impeachment for Vice President Sara Duterte are ongoing. The vote is actually currently ongoing right now, so there's a lot happening here in the lower house as well.
How many attendees are we seeing from the House right now? As you can see, how many were attended, how many were absent? What's your take on that, or what's been happening?
Yeah, well, we have experienced a lot of talks on people choosing to be absent even before the voting happened. But a while ago, when they were taking who was going to be absent, or who was present rather, in the plenary, we actually reached 250 congressmen and women here. We have 318 total congressmen, so you can do the math with that. Math is not my strong suit, politics is, but we have 250 congressmen right now.
Janina, we're gonna get back to you really quickly. We're experiencing some technical difficulties with your audio, so we'll get back to you really quickly. That's Janina reporting live from the House of Representatives. We will get back to her in just a little bit. But wow, Sachiko, there were a lot of attendees, but there were also a lot of absentees. So what does that say about everything that's been happening? It's just a messy situation.
So I think like now for us Gen Zs, we're like, is this like a same cycle of like the government? Do we trust them? Do we not trust them? Like, we want to see, of course, the people that we voted for do what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're supposed to be doing their responsibilities.
Exactly.
And it's kind of sad to see, honestly.
Oh my gosh, it is a little sad to see, and man, it's just a messy situation. So I need a break. I need a break, guys.
You need a break,
Let's take a
but
break.
Unpopular opinion right now. Up next, we're unpacking the current impeachment proceedings of the Vice President with journalism professor Danilo Arao from UP Diliman. Don't go away. Unpopular opinion. We'll be right back.
As the country's politics keep getting hit by crisis after crisis, it's all starting to look like a bad drama series.
And like all bad dramas, you eventually get tired of it all. And with the latest fiasco in the Senate, Senator Bato making his first appearance in months, followed by a change in leadership. How do we keep track of it all?
Joining us now is journalism professor Danilo Arao to help us unpack how young voters see the country's political climate, what this latest impeachment trial could mean for our future, especially as Gen Z. So, let's clock it. Prof, welcome to the show.
Hello, good afternoon.
I know we talked about, and I know everyone has been messy.
Yeah.
It's all been
Yes.
messy, no? But I guess I want to break the ice a little bit
Yes.
and talk
Okay.
about our generation as the Gen Zs. No?
Okay.
Why is it important for us to be updated and engaged with what's currently happening with the impeachment, with the flood control,
Okay.
Even if it doesn't, let's say, necessarily affect us per se?
First of all, the youth is said to be the future of the nation, and whatever it is that we're going through right now, you're gonna inherit the mess
Right.
that we've created. This isn't the time to blame anybody as to whether or not it's your fault or my generation, Gen X's fault. We're here to unite and to make sure that the youth would have enough information so that they can chart a better future for the country. So to the youth out there who's watching right now, it's necessary to know what's happening and to be involved if necessary.
Right. Spoken like a true professor.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking about that, we
Yes.
actually just got news that the votes were at 255.
Wow, yeah.
So we only need 1/3 of the votes actually. So what does that mean now for us?
Well, definitely the articles of impeachment will be forwarded to the Senate. But as you mentioned a while ago, there was a change in the leadership.
Right.
And let's not mince words about it. The change in leadership has something to do with the impeachment. That
course.
much is true. Because as you know, the former Senate President, Tito Soto, wanted an immediate convening of the impeachment trial. His definition of forthwith is immediately, as in now na. Parang
Yeah.
ganun yung sinasabi niya.
Yeah.
But right now, the Senate President, who is said to be allied with the Dutertes, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but he may have a different interpretation of what forthwith means. That's one. The other scenario is there will be no impeachment trial at all, even if lawyers would argue that the Senate has no choice. But
Gotcha.
you know, in our country, there are different ways to manipulate,
Right.
weaponize, and
Right.
circumvent certain policies.
Sorry to cut you off, Prof,
Yeah,
but we
that's
do
okay.
have our co-host Janina Vela right now at the House of Representatives. The House has voted to impeach now former Vice President Sara Duterte once again. So again, we have Janina
Yeah.
Vela live reporting from the House of Representatives. Janina, can you hear us? What is the latest right now at the House of Representatives?
Yes, I'm still here. As we were bantering, actually, Vice President Sara Duterte was impeached here at the lower house with 255 votes in the affirmative. We have 26 votes voting no, and actually only 9 abstentions. So we are hearing that it's possible that if we are able to deliver the articles of impeachment tomorrow, Tuesday, the Senate trial court can begin or commence as soon as Wednesday.
Wow. Janina, this is huge news, no? How long does that usually take from the House's perspective, from the House's standpoint? What is the usual process? Can you walk us through that?
Yes, well, we just finished our nominal voting here where everybody present had the choice to, first do a public vote on the mic if they were voting yes or no, and they had the choice to explain their yes vote or explain their no vote. But today, not a lot of words were said. That's why the vote went by so fast. We saw, again, the numbers 255, 26, and 9 of those who just wanted to share their vote and walk out.
Thank you so much, Janina Vela, live from the House of Representatives. Now turning back to our discussion. Prof,
Yes.
what are your initial thoughts about what was just discussed?
Those who are in favor of impeachment turns out to be more than what we expected, because if I'm not mistaken, you only need 106 to impeach. Now it's 255. If I'm not mistaken, the previous year, it was around that number. More. Now, we have more now. So that's the case. And I think in the Senate, it's going to be a different ballgame altogether. The fact that you're able to change the Senate President gives you an idea, more or less, of how a majority of senators would vote. But I don't want to give any conclusions or fearless forecasts right now because anything can happen. You know, the fluidity of the situation.
If they were both still allies, like Sara Duterte and PBBM, would this still even be happening right now?
I doubt it because if you're a unit team, what's the point of impeaching each other, right? Number one. But having said that, of course, cause-oriented groups and other marginalized sectors may end up coursing their impeachment complaints still, but the numbers would be so massive for the unit team that any impeachment attempt will still be rejected even at the level of the House of Representatives. In other words, the process may still happen given the crisis that we're going through right now, but the numbers won't be in our favor. But now we're able to maximize whatever friction there may be between the two camps.
Right. Prof, we all know that this impeachment is a political proceeding more than it is a judicial one, no?
Correct.
A Senate leadership shakeup this afternoon with Tito Soto being ousted and Senator Alan Peter Cayetano being, voted as the Senate President. Who was already preparing the chamber for a trial? And does this signal that the articles of impeachment will be dead on arrival and archived just like last year?
You know, that's possible, and that's why the people would have to really be on guard. And through pressure politics, we may be able to change the minds of a few senators here and there, and we might be able to get what is due to the people. I mean, don't get me wrong, when I say that many people are in favor of impeachment, it's not personal against the Dutertes, and it doesn't make you pro-Marcos automatically. It's just that we want transparency, accountability, and the responsibility of public officials in terms of managing our funds.
Right. And this is also very surprising for us, Professor, that Senator De La Rosa reappears in the Senate and votes for Senator Alan Peter Cayetano as Senate President.
Yes.
Does the Senate shakeup reveal two political ambitions at play, providing political refuge for De La Rosa and Vice President Sara Duterte?
You know, that's an interesting question. Bato De La Rosa took the risk to, make it so that he can physically vote. So that's a risk that he took, but the NBI was there already, and if you believe the rumor, I'm sorry if I'm mentioning certain rumors right now, there could be a warrant of arrest already coming from the ICC. There could be.
There could be.
Okay, at least that's
official.
That's not official. That's something that was fed to me by some sources. But anyway, assuming that that's true or even not true, he took the risk. And the fact that the NBI is there means that something is brewing and that he could be, arrested maybe anytime. That's why to the Gen Zs out there, I know that your bedroom habits would dictate that you don't sleep. If you don't want to sleep, then watch the news.
Watch the news.
Okay, instead of playing whatever video games you have in mind.
But Prof,
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine, right? But it really does get, tiring and exasperating, like I said a while ago. And I think it really just is a question of integrity. Like for us Gen Zs, we're so woke nowadays, and we try to be as updated as we can. But with Philippine politics, it just seems like such a circus, and it's just like, what is, and with all this happening in the Senate, where's the integrity, and what does that say about the integrity of the Senate?
Yeah, definitely there are trust issues with various government agencies and mechanisms, including the legislative branch. So that would be the Senate and the House of Representatives. So it's necessary for the senators to rebuild that particular trust. And if ever we question their, how they are doing their jobs, then we have the elections happening 2 years from now, and we can make the change if we want to.
Right. Prof, in reference to the ERAP impeachment and the second envelope moment that shifted public sentiment, is mass public support still strong enough to drive outcomes today, especially considering, the Duterte's bloc's, the Duterte bloc's influence in Visayas and Mindanao? Yeah.
Definitely, there's that possibility where pressure politics can work wonders. But of course, as you correctly mentioned, way back in 2001, kay ERAP, nung panahon ni ERAP, things are a bit different, and right now we are armed with more technology for better communication. However, the factions are more polarizing than before. So it's quite challenging, but I believe in the power of the youth. It is through the youth, for example, that last September 21 last year, were able to mobilize a lot of people, not just at the Luneta, but also at EDSA Shrine. So we're able to do that. So there's nothing that can prevent the youth and other sectors from doing the same, at least for this particular instance.
Okay, and will voters still have the appetite to be engaged in what's happening socio-politically?
Especially, why should young voters have that appetite to be engaged in what's happening? So, like, politically and socially, right?
Yeah, well, as they say, politics should be part of our DNA. So if the youth can have the appetite for Friday night outs and video games, then why not have some time for, involvement in politics?
For sure.
I mean, it's not that demanding. It's just a matter of being informed and participating in any action that may happen in your school, among many other things that you can do. There are a lot of activities you can do, and you know what the youth have that our generation does not have. You have more time, you have more energy to do things, and you don't think about adulting matters, so you can better focus on, various advocacies.
Right, correct. Well, Prof, in BNC's memo with Ms. Corina Sanchez Rojas, former Senate President Frank Drilon said VP Sara can still run for public office even if she resigns or is impeached. Could an impeachment trial actually boost her political comeback narrative in 2028? But before you answer this question, unpopular opinion, we will be right back.
Okay.
Welcome back. We left off with a question. Could an impeachment trial actually boost VP Sara's political comeback narrative in 2028? Prof, your answer.
Definitely, it's possible. It depends on who gets to control the narrative. On social media, it's all about the battle of narratives between truth seekers and fake news peddlers. And that's why even the remark of former Senate President Franklin Drilon regarding the possibility of Sara Duterte running again if she resigns, or her eligibility to run again if she resigns, it's subject to interpretation of various lawyers. So the Supreme Court would have a lot of things on its hands when the petitions come rolling in.
Yeah.
And based off of what you just said, so like if the Senate convicts VP Sara and bans her from holding public office, would then the future Duterte family members, or like their ambitions for national politics, will it be reduced, or will it even push them even further?
What I've heard is that their plan B is to have either Pulong or Baste run for president. So there will still be a Duterte. The Duterte brand will still be there, but whether or not they would have the political stock and the political savviness of the father and the daughter, that's another question altogether.
Right.
So there's that possibility.
Right, you mentioned the father as well.
Yeah.
Now, if VP Sara is removed from office, the political cost of cooperating with the ICC lessens, no?
Yes.
So would the government use their conviction as an opportunity to surrender more Duterte allies and family members to the ICC?
Yeah, that's possible.
That's possible.
In fact, the various names have been floated already as being part of the, crimes against humanity. So 2 sitting senators, it's not just De La Rosa, there's also Go, former chiefs of the Philippine National Police. So those are real possibilities. And I think the government, under the Marcos Jr. administration, would have more reason to cooperate with the ICC.
And to really pick your brain over here,
Yeah,
so
sure.
with the House advancing impeachment and then we have the Senate holding the final vote, how are the political actors already positioning themselves for influence or even protection for 2028?
Yeah, I mean, it's every man or woman for himself or herself right now. It depends on what would be the best concessions that they can get in exchange for a vote to either acquit or to convict. That's the name of the game. I mean, during the time of the impeachment of Estrada, that has been the case. And actually, you're still too young to remember the time when Chief Justice Corona was also impeached, the Supreme Court, former Supreme Court Chief Justice, because of undeclared sal-ins.
Right.
I mean, those things, rumors have been swirling that money changed hands. And even up to now, such things can happen. Unfortunately, given the rotten system that we have right now, it has become somewhat accepted that there are certain funds that would be released before or within the time that voting would take place. So sometimes they time it like that.
Is history repeating itself then?
Exactly. That's why all the more for the youth to know not just the current situation but also the history. Certain parallelisms are happening because the problem with political dynasties, these are nothing new. I mean, even during the time of the colonial Spain, even during the time of Spanish colonialism, we already had the roots of political dynasties growing.
Right. You mentioned the history, right? This
Yes.
isn't the first time that VP has been, there's been an impeachment trial on VP Sara.
Correct.
So if VP Sara survives politically after all this again and even wins the presidency in 2028, would she have any legal authority to, let's say, order the release of her father from the ICC?
I doubt it because the ICC operates on its own, and even if the Philippines would have, let's say, a resolution to the effect that release him now, bring him home, for example, on a more official level, I doubt if the ICC judges would listen.
Could we possibly see a return to the, let's say, the Duterte's era in the pro-China foreign policy?
Definitely, yes, that would be possible.
If she wins, yeah.
Yeah, if she wins.
Yeah.
So that's why...
How about the revival of the war on drugs, let's say?
Yeah, again, all policies of the Duterte camp would definitely be part of the program. They were able to get that much votes in the war on drugs, so there's no reason why they would abandon that particular quote-unquote populist policy.
And for a final question here,
Sure.
how could the youth directly feel a potential VP Sara win in 2028, especially in terms of education and civic policies?
I think in terms of education, how she performed or not performed when she was Department of Education Secretary. So there was not much effort to address, basic problems like the lack of classrooms or even the lack of items for teachers. So I doubt if it will be one of the priorities. Of course, on paper, they will say that it's the priority, but their mind would be somewhere else. And let's not forget the confidential and intelligence funds under the Department of Education, which was very weird considering that what kind of surveillance do you need at the Education Department?
Thank you very much, Prof. Danilo Arao.
It just feels like a classroom lesson, actually. I'm learning a lot
It
from
does
here.
feel like
Thank you.
a classroom setting.
So, as public clamor grows for good governance and accountability, politics once again appears to be operating under a different playbook. Lawmakers now find themselves turning against one another, raising questions about who they truly serve.
What began as a process meant to uphold justice and accountability is increasingly being viewed as a battle for power and influence. And amid the political maneuvering, the public is left asking, who does the chamber really serve? Once again, I'm Gab Reyes, and if this episode got you thinking, then our work here is done.
I'm Sachiko Gamboa. Agree or disagree, we said what we said. And that's another Unpopular Opinion Unpacked.
Unpopular